Hello everyone, my name is Josh Massengill. My colleague Caden Norton and I are your lobbyists. We've represented TCA at the state capitol for several years now. This will be our second legislative day to be with you, and we are super excited about what we're going to accomplish together in 2019. You're going to get all the training you need for Legislative Day when you show up in Austin, but we wanted to go ahead and make a video to just kind of walk you through some things that you might want to be thinking about as we prepare to storm the state capitol on Valentine's Day. Now, to begin with, there's 3 rules that we want you to be aware of, and they're fairly simple, but they're critically important. Rule number 1, be on time. We've got you scheduled meetings all over the Capitol. We've scheduled it down to the minute. We need you to be on time. And extra important that you be on time to the training that we'll do the morning of, because that is where you'll connect with your group. It's where you'll get your packets, and that will really set the tone for the whole day. And we'll talk more about that in just a second, but be on time. Rule number 2, be a team player. We need you to be flexible. The logistics of an event like this, bringing 600 or 700 chiropractors to the Capitol, are pretty insane. There's going to be some hiccups. There could be bad weather. There could be scheduling snafus. We just need you to be a team player. Remember why you're here. Rule number 3, make a good impression. That is the thing that we're here to do, right, is to advance chiropractic by making a good impression. And that flows through to how we dress, how we act, how we talk, how we conduct ourselves at the Capitol. We really want to make a good impression. Now, let's take a look at the schedule for Legislative Day. It looks a little like this. 7:30 a.m. registration will begin over at the First United Methodist Church Family Life Center. So the church building is not actually where we'll be meeting. We'll be meeting in the Family Life Center. So the big ornate building that looks like a church, that's not where we're going. We're going to the Family Life Center, which is at the intersection of 13th and Lavaca. And I'll show you a map here in just a minute so you can get a better sense of it. But 13th and Lavaca. Now, we have 2 waves of training. And I understand that that might be a little complicated, but what it boils down to is that the room that we're going to be using to do our morning briefing is simply not big enough to hold our entire group. So we have to train you in 2 waves. So at 8 o'clock, we'll be doing wave 1 training. That's for teams that have their first meeting at 9 a.m. And at 8:30, we'll have wave 2 team training for teams that have meetings that start at 9:30 or later. Now, it's critically important that you go to the correct training. So when you show up at registration, you're going to get a packet, and it's going to tell you you're in wave 1 or you're in wave 2. You're welcome to go into the Family Life Center, grab a taco, hang out. But when it's time for wave 1 training, I need everybody for wave 1 at the correct table with your group. And if you're in wave 2, we need you to get the heck out. There's not room for you in there, right? And if you're supposed to be in wave 1, you can't wait until wave 2 training to go and learn what you need to learn, because there's not enough time for you to conduct the training and then get over to your meeting. So it's critically important that you go to the correct training, which will either be at 8 or 8:30. You will find out which wave you're in when you show up to register at the Family Life Center on 13th and Lavaca. We're going to have meetings beginning at 9. At 11:45, we're going to do a group photo on the north side of the Capitol, on the steps. That's the UT side of the Capitol. That's going to be super cool. That picture from last Legislative Day really made the rounds on the internet, and it's something we're really proud of. So we want to make sure that our entire group is available for a group photo at 11:45 a.m. From noon to 1:30 is going to be lunch. Students are actually going to have lunch provided for them back at the Family Life Center. Docs, you're free to eat on your own, but just bear in mind that from noon to 1:30, that's not a ton of time for you to, travel a long distance and get back through security and into your meetings. So just make sure that you're budgeting your time carefully. We're going to have some more meetings in the afternoon, and then at about 3:45 p.m. we'll be done, and you can go enjoy your Valentine's Day. Now, let's take a look at the map. Right in the middle of this slide, you can see the Capitol. That's the Capitol complex. And then over there on the left side, that star shows you kind of where the church building that we're going to be in is. And so when we're done training, you're going to want to walk over to the Capitol. Now, there's 4 different entrances at the Capitol: north, south, east, and west. Those west steps are the closest to the church. So a lot of you are going to want to enter right there through the west steps. But there's so many of us, it probably makes sense to kind of divide and conquer. So some of you may want to walk to the south or the north steps, kind of depending on what the crowd looks like. The only thing I would say, just make sure that you stick together in your groups. You don't want to divide up, every member of your team going through a different door so that you then have to find yourself in the Capitol, which is a confusing building as it is. So as a team, decide which entrance you're going to use and then do it together. And then there, where the yellow star is, that's the north steps where we're going to be doing the group photo at 11:45. Now, in terms of parking, this is sort of a different map view, and you'll see kind of right there in the center, there's where the Capitol building is. The red star that just popped up, that's where the church is. And there's lots of different places we can park. Now, down at the bottom right, that's actually the Sheraton Hotel. So some of you, that's where you'll be coming from. I think there are going to be some shuttle buses that run you in the morning over to the church. But you can park at the Sheraton. You can actually park in Capitol Visitors parking, which is right there kind of to the right of where the Capitol building is. There's other places that you can park. But just make sure, again, that you budget yourself enough time to get where you need to be at the correct time. Now, let's talk a little bit about team assignments. The question many of you are going to have is, why don't I get to meet with who I want, when I want, and on the team I want? And I understand why you would have that question, but here's what I want everybody to be aware of. We have 181 legislative offices that we have to visit, and we've divided you out into 48 teams. And when you do the math, what that means is we've got about 3.5 office visits per team on average. So some of you are going to have more, others of you are going to have less, and it just sort of has to do with scheduling conflicts when these offices that we're scheduling have said that they're available. Additionally, we've got about 500 attendees. We may have significantly more than that. And again, with 48 teams, what that means is we've got more than 10 attendees per team. Now, the problem is we can't bring this many people in every office. It's rude, and it would really distract from our message. And what that means is that not every member of your team is going to attend every meeting, right? You're going to want to cycle in and out, and we've got that scheduled for you. Additionally, we have about 75 attendees from certain districts, and then other districts from South and West Texas, we have very few attendees. And we need to equalize teams so that we can, have the correct size and number of people in every office. And that's just going to require some flexibility on your part. And we beg for your understanding, because this has been carefully choreographed, and we want to make sure that we're giving you a great opportunity to meet with the people that you need to be meeting with, but we're also here to play as a team and accomplish our goals, and that is just going to require some flexibility on your part. What that means, additionally, is no switching teams, okay? No freelancing. If you want to do drop-bys, let's say that you are from a district and you didn't get to meet with the person you thought you might be meeting with, it's fine in between your scheduled meetings if you want to do a drop-by, if, and only if, you stop by just to say hi and sign the guest book. You do not want to storm in and demand another meeting, because that office will have already had a scheduled meeting, and it's just not fair to these people for us to just pop in on them all day and suck up their time. And if we do that, we're going to make a negative impression, and that's not what we want. So you can drop by only to say hello and to sign visitors' guest books. Additionally, team assignments, meeting schedules, all the supporting documents, you're going to have hard copies of that, okay? Not only that, those materials are actually available on the Expo Pass app. Now, regarding Expo Pass, you can download it from the App Store. You can get it from Google Play. Many of you, if you've ever been to Chirotexpo or one of our other events, you may already have the app. Just make sure that you sign in with the email you used to register for TCLC, and when you do, it'll pre-populate all the information that you need, and then make sure you turn on push notifications so that you can get updates throughout the day. Our materials will be inside Expo Pass. So if you were to lose your folder, or maybe before you show up you want to log in and kind of look through some of the materials, you can find that on the Expo Pass app, which we encourage you to download and use. Now, let's talk a little bit about your meetings and what they're going to look like. The purpose of these meetings that we've scheduled is to inform legislators and staff about chiropractic education, TCA's legislative agenda, and advance our reputation as a safe, patient-focused health profession. So there's sort of three components there: your education, our legislation, our legislative package, and our reputation. So with respect to your education, the people that you're going to be talking to, they just don't understand the kind of education you have. And if they walk away from these visits remembering only one thing that you tell them, we want it to be your extensive education and the training that you have obtained. With respect to our legislative package, every attendee is going to get a folder, as I said, that's going to have this information in it. The legislator will have packets for you to give to legislators and staff. And then in terms of just reputation, we've just worked really hard, and TCA has worked really hard over a long period of time to cultivate a reputation for chiropractic as the profession that puts the needs of patients ahead of the docs. Right? And that's critical to our legislative success. So in these meetings, it's okay to talk about how these things affect you, but what we're really concerned about is explaining how they impact your patients, how they impact the people of Texas. We think that's a winning message that's going to really resonate. Above all, stay on message. When you're in a meeting, as you're walking out the door, that would not be a good time to say, by the way, what do you think about partial birth abortion? Or how about that Trump? We want to stay on message. We're talking about things that relate to chiropractic and that we have agreed as an organization that we want to talk about. And that goes back to being a team player. Stay on message. Now, let's kind of run through TCA's legislative agenda. And it's not important that you know the fine details of all these things because, again, it's going to be, in the packet. And the people that you'll be meeting with, they know that you're civilians. They know that you're not attorneys or lobbyists. What will shine through is your passion and your concern for your patients. So if you don't, if some of these details sort of elude you, that's okay. But again, you will have information in your packet that we think will help get you up to speed. One of our agenda items, and really the most important, is that we're pushing legislation that would clarify the role of nerves and the nervous system in chiropractic. That's super important. We also have a bill that would reduce the overprescription of opioids. We want to end discrimination against DCs by insurers, paying codes to PTs that they won't pay to chiropractors. We want to end abusive post-payment extrapolation by insurers. We want to put a chiropractor on the Combative Sports Advisory Board. And we want to make sure that injured workers know that they can choose a chiropractor if that's what they want. And finally, we want to make sure that we protect our patients' access to chiropractic acupuncture. And there will be information about each of those agenda items in your packets and on the Expo Pass app. Now, most of these meetings are going to run about 20 minutes. Some are going to go longer, some may be shorter than that. And I trust that you all have the emotional intelligence to kind of just sense when you're in the meeting whether people are wanting to keep talking or whether they're anxious to get back to work. So just be respectful of people's time, but let's shoot generally for a meeting length of about 15 or 20 minutes. And when you're in the meeting, it can flow organically, but here's kind of what we recommend. You might just start off by just telling them, why you're here. We're here to discuss some important legislative issues that are probably going to come across your desk over the course of session, and we just want to make sure that you understand those issues and how they affect our patients. Then, you can kind of do what we call Chiropractic 101. What is chiropractic? Explain it. You might give examples of common conditions that are commonly treated with chiropractic care. You might want to share some brief, success stories that you've had with your patients. But just walk them through chiropractic. Then talk a little bit about your education. We have a chart that you can give the legislators and staff that compares your education to that of physicians and athletic trainers and PTs, and it's pretty impressive. So you might just focus a little bit on your education, walk them through the agenda items that we discussed, placing an emphasis on the nerve issue, and then answer any questions they have. And then finally, make the ask. Ask them for their support. thank them for their time, and request pictures with them if you feel like it's appropriate. Pictures are fine if you ask permission. Videos are not acceptable. Do not take video and do not ask to take video in a legislative office. But you can request to take pictures, and they're fairly used to that. But just, again, make sure you ask. Don't be creepy, okay? Now, a few final miscellaneous details. One is, and this is super important, we want your feedback. So when you're meeting with some of these legislators and staff, you are going to learn things that are critically important to TCA. And I want you to be listening for things that might be useful. Things like, oh yeah, Representative Smith loves chiropractic. The name of his doctor is Dr. Johnson in Houston, and he is super awesome, and chiropractic saved his life. That would be something really important that we would want to know. Or if they said, actually, the legislator, his mother was a chiropractor. That would be super important to know. Or if you're in a meeting and you're just getting the feeling that maybe the staff member that you're talking to just is not buying what you're selling, we'd want to know that too. So we want you to share your meeting notes with us, and you can do that by visiting www.tcafeedback.org. TCAfeedback.org. That's a website that we've set up specifically for the purpose of collecting your notes from these meetings. So somebody in your group, at least one person, needs to be taking notes, listening for those important details that could be useful to us, and then after every meeting, we want you submitting that to us on that feedback form that we have at that website. Critically important. We're also going to be delivering some TCA cushions to legislators. They love these cushions. They're like, like arch support cushions. You're going to walk into these offices and you're going to see cushions from years past, some of which are like incredibly dilapidated because they've been so used and so well loved. So we will be delivering cushions. That will be a separate team that's sort of organized by the auxiliary. So you won't be doing that when you meet with members, but if you end up with some free time in between meetings, that might be something we want you to help with, is delivering cushions. And we'll talk more about that during training on the day of. And then finally, we're going to be doing some social media. We're going to encourage you to make some posts with some hashtags, like there's the hashtag TextLeg and the hashtag that we're going to use, LoveTXChiro. And we, in your packet, have included some social media instructions that you can use when you're doing your posts. So those are just some things to bear in mind. Ultimately, we believe this is going to be a super successful event, but it really depends on you. We need you to be on time, we need you to be a team player, and we need you to make a good impression. And if you can do those things, we are going to do great things for chiropractic in 2019. We look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday. Thanks for joining us.